You probably think America is a democracy. It isn't. Think about the presidential election. We know that's not democratic. Just ask Al Gore. In the primaries, they're just as undemocratic as the presidential election. We use these archaic things known as delegates, who in turn are sent to even more complicated things known as conventions. Delegates are like robo-voters. They're machines who are programmed to vote a certain way, with the way they're voting decided on a state-by-state basis by a local caucus or primary. The result is that the two candidates who end up facing off in the presidential election are not necessarily the two candidates who get the most votes in the primaries. The US has a large number of Democrats. Among them, support for Bernie Sanders is about 40%. Republicans, on the other hand, make up a smaller proportion of the country, and among them, support for Donald Trump is only around 35%, which means it's highly likely that more people support Bernie Sanders than support Donald Trump. Yet Sanders is way behind in the Democratic primaries, while Trump is way ahead among the Republicans. What's happening here is that a bunch of Democratic votes get poured into the complicated machine that is the Democratic convention, and Hillary comes out the other side as the Democratic candidate. Meanwhile, on the Republican side, all of their votes also get poured into a convention machine, and even though Trump only has about 35% of the votes, he currently has about 45% of the delegates. That gives him a big advantage inside that Republican convention machine. Whatever you want to call this, it's not democracy. Somehow we seem set to propel Trump to the Republican nomination, making him the standard bearer for the American right, while relegating Sanders to the status of a historical footnote, despite the fact that Sanders has more support than Trump has. Which means that Trump isn't the American people's fault. He's the party system's fault. Why do the parties get to choose the presidential candidates in the first place? Why should each party only have one candidate running in the general election? There's no good reason for any of these things except to take power away from the people and to give it to the parties. In the current climate where millions of Americans deeply mistrust both political parties, that's not a good look. A direct election where the president was chosen by all Americans from a short list of candidates would be much more democratic and much less open to the electoral shenanigans. So next time you rub your eyes and wonder how on earth a racist nutjob is going to become the Republican presidential candidate, remind yourself that it isn't democracy which made that possible. It's the lack of it.